Being a Mum podcast, where I, Alison Newman, a singer, songwriter, and Aussie mum of two, enjoys honest and inspiring conversations with artists and creators about the joys and issues they've encountered while trying to be a mum and continue to create. You'll hear themes like the mental juggle, changes in identity, how their work's been influenced by motherhood, mum guilt, cultural norms, and we also stray into territory such as the patriarchy, feminism, and capitalism. You can find links to my guests and topics we discuss in the show notes, along with a link to the music played, how to get in touch, and a link to join our supportive and lively community on Instagram. I'll always put a trigger warning if we discuss sensitive topics on the podcast, but if at any time you're concerned about your mental health, I urge you to talk to those around you, reach out to health professionals, or seek out resources online. I've compiled a list of international resources which can be accessed on the podcast landing page, alisonnewman.net/podcast. The Art of Being a Mum would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and water which this podcast is recorded on, as being the Boandik people in the Berrin region. I'm working on land that was never ceded. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This week we're up to 91, creeping ever closer to that magical 100. This week, however, my guest is Elora Viano, a photographer based in Lincolnshire in the UK and a mum of two. Elora's originally from Canada and she spent a few years in Italy where she met her husband before moving to the UK. Growing up, Elora loved being creative but didn't have a natural affinity for drawing or painting. She was looking for ways to be creative and express herself, and in high school she discovered photography. She finally found what she'd been looking for. Elora's been photographing since back in the days of film, the first time around, and has enjoyed it as a passionate hobby ever since. She enjoys experimenting in her work, using different lenses, collages or light leak overlays. 6 years ago, Elora decided to turn photography into a business, and she got so sucked into making it a success in that process that she'd forgotten about her love for her personal projects. Having made active changes, she's proud to say she's managed to accomplish a number of personal projects and continues to do so, growing and challenging herself with this medium. Elora is a family photographer and enjoys a documentary style. Her biggest passions are capturing emotion and movement in her subjects. She's won a number of awards and been published in magazines both in print and online. Elora's current project, Kintsugi Mama, aligns the Japanese art of repairing with gold with stretch marks. Through this project, Elora is exploring the beauty of the so-called scarred female body, the body where the skin stretches, breaks and re-heals itself, all while bringing a new life into this world. It's an incredible feat of Mother Nature, and yet somehow we do not tend to look upon those stretch marks with love, but with distaste, hate even. What if instead of hiding those imperfections, we celebrated them, repaired them with gold, the most precious element of them all? What if we took the time to see how glorious they truly are? Would we see ourselves differently? Would we revel in the power of womanhood? Elora, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's good to meet you too.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. So we're just chatting before I hit record. You're over in the UK and it is the morning there.
Yes.
Whereabouts in the UK are you?
Lincolnshire, which is central east coast type area of the country.
Yeah, right. So in relation to London, which is about
North,
mostly where most people know. So it's north of London. Yeah. Have you always lived there? Or your accent?
No, my accent is not British. It's Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Canada, and then I spent a few years in Italy when I met my husband, and then we ended up moving here for his work, and so far this is where we're staying.
Yeah, right.
I'm a photographer
Mhm.
primarily. I like to dabble in other things, but just as a hobby, really.
Yep.
So I mostly do photography, and I also run it as a business with family and personal branding here in Lincoln. And I also do it as personal work and therapy, and
Yep.
just as the storyteller of the family, as well as doing projects that are close to my heart. And I've also recently launched a podcast,
Oh,
and so
exciting.
yeah, so it's all on. I'm all over the place as usual,
Yeah.
doing 400 different things, um, all in good fun,
Yeah.
just to keep me busy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell us about your style of photography that you like to take.
I love doing more documentary type photography, so taking pictures as they are. My biggest passion is capturing emotion in my images,
Mhm.
and movement and love and connection and joy and just silliness in
Yeah.
general. I just live for that. When I see one of those pictures, it's just like, that's the one.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
me, I also enjoy experimenting a bit with photography on the side, on personal side, using like creative lenses or sticking stuff in front of my lenses.
Yeah, right.
Occasionally doing montage type stuff. Not very
Mhm.
good, but it's fun to experiment.
Yeah.
I like to try new things, because then I see I can incorporate that into my work if it feels like it's in line with me.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I don't. I just let it go because it's not my thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
learned
for
that the
sure.
hard way by
Yeah.
trying to be what I wasn't. And I've just with age and maturity, uh, as you do, I
Yeah.
just said, you know what, that's not me. So
Yeah.
I've tried. It wasn't for me. I move on.
Yeah, good
So
on
so
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a bit of a squiz on your webpage. Which you've got, yeah, I love that style. It's like you're not setting people in positions and poses and, all that sort of staged sort of style of
Mhm.
photography, which when I got married 20 years ago, and I
Mhm.
wanted the style of photography like that, like what you do, like this documentary style where you're just capturing things as they happen. And the town
Mhm.
I live in we've only got like 30,000 people. So at that time there was maybe two professional photographers, and this was back on
Mhm.
like the film days. Um,
Mhm.
and no one did the style like that. It was all stand here and stand here and blah, blah, and it's like, if I had my time again, I probably would have pushed a bit harder.
But
So I just
it's
love that style.
it's become more popular as a style over the last 20 years or so.
Hmm.
I think it's evolved because there was a very distinct thing between reportage, so like reporters and news things and magnum photo kind of stuff,
Yep.
and what family photography was supposed to be, so studio imposed and
Hmm.
curated and made to look because it was a special occasion. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but as things have changed, they've kind of all smushed together a lot, and it's become very nice to see that there's a whole array of different styles for people to choose from, and they can go
Mm.
with what they're drawn to.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love that. I think because like when digital came along, it just became so much more accessible to so many people. And
Yes.
I know, yeah, where I live, like just about everybody can take photos, like, whether they're good or not, it's another story. But there are a lot of photographers around now compared to what they used to
Mhm.
be. Um,
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
yeah, you're not short of pretty much everyone's got a good camera these days. how did you first get into photography?
Okay. So it's a story of how one person can really influence your life and change it. In this case, a teacher. I always liked being creative, but I suck at drawing like stick men, barely understandable. I mean, my kids draw better than I do. They inherited more from their father, thankfully for them, in their art skills. But I can't draw. I love being creative. I love doing crafty things. I really wanted to be able to express myself, but I could never find a medium that I liked. I kept taking art classes. I kept really doing badly at art classes and getting critiqued and getting pushed down, but I just kept going until about high school in grade 11, no, grade 12. So last year of high school, my art teacher introduced me to photography. And we had a school camera and she gave it to me. She showed me how to put the film in the black bag, the way you used to do it in the olden days. And, she taught the whole module basically on how to use photography. And I found it and I was like, it just opened my eyes as to how I could be creative and I could do that with people and things and how I see the world and how light is. And so I basically never stopped after that. I kept going as a hobby. I'd take a little camera with me everywhere and photograph my trips, my travels, my friends, my family, the cats, everything. I had stacks of pictures that I would go to the little 1 hour photo guy and print them out and have it done. And then there was a bit of a pause for a while I was studying at university. I just didn't have the time to follow on a lot of hobbies. And in that meantime, everything kind of went digital. So it was like I had to learn it all again. In a way. So I picked up a digital camera and I slowly started learning and got into that. And I just kept doing it, just practicing and playing around as a hobby, never really thinking it could become a business or anything like that, until I had my kids. And then with my first child, I realized that I wanted to have the flexibility of deciding my own times. And I was like, I wanted to still do something creative. I still wanted to do something I could work around my family. And it was like, well, this is pretty clear. So I decided to start up my business and that's it, really. It's been going since then.
Yeah, right. So how long is that? How old are you, that child now?
The oldest one is 9 and the youngest is 6, going on 7, as she likes to point out. Every day, 6.5, mommy, and only like 3 months until my birthday, that kind of thing, counting it down.
I love that.
I know. They're so detail oriented. So sorry, I was saying, it's been first year or so was kind of start and stop because I was learning all the things about business, and that's where I kind of fell into doing what other people were doing. So I thought it has to be studio stuff, so I had to learn about lighting and backdrops and find a space and posing and and it was so hard for me to learn it and to just do it. And anytime I had a session, the photos I found that I tended to be drawn to the most were the outtakes. And I was like, and I always included them. And then, sometimes people wanted that posed look and sometimes they preferred the outtakes and stuff like that. And then as I got into it, and then I kept on taking like courses and joining groups and communities and all that kind of stuff. And then I found lifestyle photography and I was like, oh, this is like an in-between kind of thing. And it was being very popular in the States and Canada. It was not yet all the rage here. It was just starting. Kind of here in the UK. So it took a long time for me to kind of promote and get people to do it. But I did a few model calls, got a few model families in. started to change over the website and who I was, focusing on. And in the meantime, we moved. So I had a completely new clean slate, basically, to work on with new clients. And I just promoted myself as that. And then from lifestyle, I've gone more and more towards the documentary approach. And that seems to be where I have settled right now as it stands from a business standpoint. Personally, I've always been documentary. So I've always been doing, just taking pictures of things as they are, nature, landscapes, or people in the street, or that kind of thing. The kids as they were growing, and that started me off on a series of personal projects as well. And that's pretty much it summed up.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that, how, like, you mentioned it earlier, and then I've gone into some detail with it now, but I think a lot of people can relate to that when you start something new, there's this, you have this idea of what it's supposed to be like, and you can find yourself sort of falling into that trap of not listening to your heart, because you think, oh, I've got to do it like that because that seems to be right. So then it's like, and you knew, like, that you didn't want to do it like that, but it was like,
I could feel that it just wasn't my thing.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of sort of soul searching to sort of look at why do I want to do this? What are the reasons I want to do it that way or this way? So no, I love that. That's really good. Oh dear, I'm just thinking about myself when I say that.
Oh, there you go.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. You second guess yourself so much, I think. And so I think, you don't trust yourself enough at different times. So no. Anyway.
That's all right. I think it comes a bit more with age, that you kind of just say, screw it, at a certain point, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And if people like it, that's great. If they don't, tough, kind of thing. I think it's come to me as I've gotten older and felt more secure in my skills and my abilities, I think, and I have learned to say no to things. And at first I wouldn't. I refused to, because I was like, I need the money, I need to do this, I need to practice. And then I found myself doing a lot of stuff I didn't want to do. And I was like, nah, life's too short. And so I've said no. I have a wonderful network of other local photographers who do all sorts of different styles and events and types of photography and focusing on things. And I'm very happy to refer people over to them. And sometimes we even share clients because they like both kinds of styles and stuff like that. So sometimes they go to one for one thing and me for another. And it's lovely. It's nice to be able to do that.
I love that. It just, something else that I think we can get caught up is like that competitiveness. But when you genuinely sort of settled in yourself, which you obviously are, you can be open to that, and you don't feel threatened by other people. You're doing what you love. You're allowing your clients to come to you if they're drawn to that style. I just think that's awesome. Good on you.
Thanks.
I love that. And I think, I agree with that. It's something that it takes time and experience. And I feel like, I've said this to other people on the podcast, when you get into your 40s, it's literally, you do not care anymore. It's like everyone else can go jump and you're going to do what you want.
Absolutely. The older I get, the more I'm like, do what you want. You do you.
Yeah.
I'm happy with me.
Yeah. No, good on you. I love that. Tell me about the Daily Collective.
Yeah, the Daily Collective. Basically, during lockdown, obviously, I was considered a non-essential service and I couldn't work. So I had to find something, do something. And with my time and between the homeschooling and all the stuff that we all went through everywhere, I found a lot of wonderful photography communities that really came together. Some didn't and some did. And I let go of the ones that didn't, and I stayed with the ones that did. And I have found and made some amazing and inspirational friends through these communities. And so I wanted to create a similar type of community as well, but with a focus on just personal projects, because there are so many communities for business and marketing and a mix of all of it. But I really wanted to focus on that artistic and creative side to photography. So I made one rule. I said, I will share only personal work, so nothing you've done for a client, just for you. If it's for you or for a gallery exhibition or, a theme that you're working towards or something, but it's a personal project that you're doing for you, then that's what I want to focus on and help with. So it started out just like as a feature hub. So I would share a picture every day from a different person who used the tag. And because it was the 365, so one picture a day for a year. But then as it kept going, I kept seeing such beautiful stuff. And so I kind of expanded it into like a membership. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do a podcast and talk about it. So
I
did it in like 24 hours. I decided, let's just do that. And that's it. I did all my research. I found all this stuff. I'm like, that seems easy enough to start a podcast. And there you go. And I started just writing out my little scripts or whatever. And I was like, so people, this is what I'm doing. And that was it. Hence the podcast.
That is
so
so
the Daily
great.
Collective has kind of expanded a little bit over the last year or so. I think I launched it around maybe April last year. April, May. So it's coming on a year of life, so to speak. So it's been, I've loved seeing the journey as it's expanding. It's a small community, it's a tiny community, but I don't mind. It's great if it expands, the more the merrier. But I like that it's small also because you get to really know the people that are in it. And get to know their work and see how they express themselves and share that, which is really lovely. On the one hand, I'm tempted to just keep it small. On the other hand, I want it to grow, obviously.
I know what you mean.
Kind of thing like that. But I'm hoping to manage to find a balance into letting it grow, but let it feel like it's close and a safe space for everyone to share their frustrations and and their creative process, or ask for advice or feedback or whatever, or just need somewhere to just have a cry, because all creatives, we tend to just have our moments, don't we? And and you just need to get it off your chest sometimes. Just write it out, and then it just feels so much better. And to have someone say, I understand you, and I hear that, it's so powerful for you. And it's like a balm for the soul. You're like, now I can go on. I don't have to obsess about that because someone understands. And and that's what I'd like it to keep becoming and growing into. So
great, good for you. I really love that. And I love that you decided to do your podcast like really quickly, because that's literally what I did, and it's awesome. Like, I had this conversation with someone on a podcast earlier in the year, or it might have been last year, I can't remember now, but we're talking about how obviously everyone's different and their creative process can be quite different. And how some people, like you and I, would just get an idea and just go bang and just do it.
Yeah.
And then some people will have to like research and prepare and plan. And it takes, a certain amount of months before they're happy to let it go out. And it's like, I just find it really fascinating just how everyone's way of processing is so different. Like, I don't know. I just find that really really cool. And it's probably no reflection on how, successful something is or whatever. It's probably not measurable whether you do it this way or that way, what the end outcome is. So it's, I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling now.
That's okay, don't worry. I like a good ramble. Don't worry. I do it myself a lot.
Oh, dear. Yeah. No, there you go. Well, that's cool. So I'm going to put the link for you're predominantly on Instagram with that.
Yeah.
With that one. Yeah, cool. So
Yes.
I'll put a hyperlink in the show notes for people if they're interested in checking that out, because that is really cool. Inspire and Learn, a community for personal photography projects. I love it. Good on you. And I also noticed that you're a moderator for a couple of other photography
Hubs, basically.
yeah.
That's what they call them.
Yeah, I find it hard to know what to say on Instagram because it's like it's not like a pay. Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So were they ones that you discovered through the pandemic as well?
Yes, they were. So the two that I moderate for is Flock Live and For the Love of the Photograph. So Flock Live is the one that came out just during the pandemic. It started out as it was supposed to be like a show, a photography show, kind of expo thing, but pandemic put that down. And but it was focused on the kind of photography that I love.
Yeah.
So a lot of the shows that they have are very much like posed newborns and their props and backdrops and business, and there isn't a lot of space for personal stuff. And this one seemed like it was going to be different already from the outset. So I was 100%, I was like their number one fan everywhere. I was totally fangirling over the whole thing. Yeah. And then as the community grew and stuff over lockdown, and I just wanted to become a part of it. And so when they asked for moderators for their Instagram and stuff like that, I jumped on board. Yeah. And I've been doing so since. It has quieted down a lot now from the way it was. Most of the groups have, I think, because we all have back to normal life, haven't we? Yeah. But it's still, for me, it was a very important part of my sanity during lockdown and a creative outlet and a community for me. And so I really wanted to give back in that way. And For the Love of the Photograph is actually based on a book that another photographer who's based in New Zealand, she wrote, Chloe Lodge, and she wrote this book, and it was all about personal photography and, capturing your everyday and seeing the light and just letting it speak to you and having a slow process. And she started a group, and of course the Instagram page, and of course I was also fangirling over that. And when she was looking for moderators and stuff, and she asked, I was like, yes, absolutely. So I joined in on that as well. I am part of other groups as well, but I can't do everything. So I had to stop myself.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I know. It's hard to because this is what we're talking about this morning when I was chatting to someone else, was we've got lists of things we want to do, and there's only so much time that we've got, and it's hard to pick the things to focus on. It's hard to weed it out.
My list is extensively long. I'm going to record I need to record a podcast about like the craziness of the creative mind.
Yes.
And all the way that your thoughts from one thing can just become this huge thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that as well. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's like the list is so long. It's a book of its own of things that you want to do and learn and try and experiment and try and do. And it's just like,
it really is, isn't it? I find that sometimes I get a lot of my ideas in the shower or when I'm swimming. Like there's something about being in water or movement that gets, I don't know, my ideas come really easily. And often I'll like be in the shower and think, oh, that's a good idea for a song, or I'll get a tune in my head and I'll have to jump out and quickly like record it on my phone or quickly make notes. And I'm like, I'm so, inspired and invigorated. And then I go, now I've got to go make the lunches for school or, just back to reality. That's the thing I find hardest, when you get in a tangent or you're on a roll and then it's like you're brought back to earth so quickly.
Yeah. By the scream of, Mom, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
That's mine usually.
Oh, dear. So speaking of Mum, I'm hungry. So you've got two children. That's a great segue, wasn't it? Sorry. So have you got two girls or a boy and a girl?
Two girls.
Two girls. Oh, that's fun. I haven't got any girls. I got two boys.
There you go. It's either all or nothing.
Oh dear. So do you girls see that you do things for yourself that don't involve the mothering role? I guess your 9-year-old would probably be aware that you're a photographer and you do all these other really cool things. Is it important to you that they see that you still have an identity that's not related to them?
Absolutely.
in a
For
nice
me,
way.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And it is important for me to do that and have my space. I've always been a person that has needed her space. I love being with people. I call myself an extroverted introvert because I do enjoy being with people. I love being part of communities. I love going out and being creative and learning things and exploring things and traveling and seeing things and, living life. But I also need time to recharge. And I always have needed times for me where it's just me alone. And even as a kid, I needed my space. As a teenager, same thing. I always needed to have a space where I could lock myself in and just do something for me, which usually ended up being something creative. It just happened. But I kind of lost that for a while, especially when the girls were really little. It was just either I was mom, and between naps, I was trying to get this business off the ground, and then it was the kids, and then it was the business, and then it was the kids, and then it was the business, and that's all it was. It was either work or family.
Yeah.
And for a while there, and I was like, at a certain point, I was like, I need something. I need to do creative outlet. I need to do something for me. And although I was doing little photo projects, kind of mini things for me, like taking, I have a 365 project, which is a photo a day, basically. And then I put it in a little album at the end of the year. And it's just like the year in review kind of thing. Yeah. So I was kind of doing that, but I wasn't really doing anything else for me. So as soon as my oldest one started school, because here they start at 4 years old, reception. So it's like kindergarten kind of thing. At 4 years old. And then the other one was starting preschool. So she was at nursery 3 days a week doing preschool things. I found myself with more time. And first, I threw it all into getting the business really going and self-sustaining. And I didn't time any of that for me. And I just work when they were there, kids. But then I said, you know what, damn it, I need 10 minutes for myself. So I started to go on a walk outside. I took my camera and we were in the countryside. We're in a small village, got tons of fields out there right now. And so I was like, I'm just going for a walk. And I felt so good. I started with 10 minutes. And I would do it when the kids were away, when they weren't around. But as things started to progress, I started to pick up and learn new creative things. So new hobbies, like I learned macrame. I learned how to macrame. And so I would sit down on the weekends and say to the kids, Mommy's doing some crafty stuff. And I would macrame some wall hanging or something like that on the weekends. And they would watch me sometimes. And I was like, this is mommy time. And so I started to put that thing down there, that this was mommy time. And it's slowly evolved into having an actual day in my schedule where it's my personal day.
Oh, I love it.
That's it. So every Thursday is where I do stuff for me. So I go to my yoga lesson. I work on either a personal photography project, or I work on learning a new skill on my long list of creative things I want to learn how to do. So I'll spend, that's my time while they're at school. That's my time. And then on the weekends, I will, I'll say I need an hour to work on my cross stitch or whatever I've been working on as a project. And they see me, I go off, I do my thing. And sometimes I involve them because, especially with the older one, we have a lot of things in common that we like to do, like being out in nature and learning about natural things, foraging. So she'll come with me and we'll like forage some food and then we'll make it together and stuff like that, which I started for me. But then she seems involved in it. And I said to her, this is good because this is for you as well. And she's doing it without her sister or without her friends. This is her thing that she likes to do. And I'm trying to also encourage my youngest slowly, because she's still very young, to kind of find her own thing as well. And it's just something that she likes and it's for her, that she doesn't have to do with her sister or her friends or me or her father or anyone. And yeah, so that's kind of how it's evolved. And so as it stands now, I have a day which I dedicate to things for me. Yeah. And that's it.
Good on you. And I love that you're instilling that in your girls from a young age, that it's important to have that, you know, that thing that is yours.
You're listening to The Art of Being a Mum with my mum, Alison Newman.
Did you find that when you weren't getting that time to do your own personal creativity, did you feel like your own identity was literally being taken away from you or like threatened?
I did. Yeah. I felt like I was just mom or Elora the photographer, but I wasn't Elora. I was just mom. And and so I felt like I was going down in this spiral of just stress and anxiety. I mean, I've always been a kind of anxious person, but you know, it was just getting worse. And I realized that there was one thing that had changed in my life besides becoming a mom. And it was that I had no space for me. So I started with those tiny little walks and I expanded it from there. And now I have a good chunk of time that's for me. And I'm happy with that. And I feel like I am more balanced and I am a better mom to them as a consequence, because when it's time to be with them, I am with them.
Yeah.
All of me is with them.
Yeah. And if you're anything like me, you feel quite sort of regulated and settled because you've had your needs met in the way that you need them. Like that sort of analogy of like your cup's full, like you can't pour from an empty cup. I don't know. Do you feel that that way?
No, I agree. Because, you know, for some people, it's like a spa day is what helps them to recharge and do their thing. That's not me. I am not. I get bored. I like it once in a while, don't get me wrong, but the idea of going and having my nails done and stuff like that, it's just like, I've got better stuff to do with my time. For me,
you've got a big long list of things you want to do.
Yeah, I'd rather spend that on craft supplies, like, duh.
Painting something else rather than someone painting your nails.
No, exactly.
Love that.
But
I love that. No, good
we
on
all
you.
have our things.
Yeah. And that whole idea of actually communicating your needs, I feel like that's something that perhaps I might be generalizing, but women seem to not be that good at doing because we have all these expectations of what we're supposed to be. Society and the patriarchy encourages us to be a particular way. And so we think, oh, if I say that I need help with something or I want something, it's almost like we're not living up to that idealized, and I'm putting these in air quotes, like this way we're supposed to be. Do you feel like that's a fair assumption?
Oh, I've had that. And I still have moments where I have that, like the house is a bomb. You know, it's like I love looking at interior decorating magazines and like, the houses are so pretty and the color palette and it's so tidy and all these ideas for organization. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally doing that. And I'll, buy all the stuff. I'll spend a whole day like reorganizing the bookshelf only for 3 days later it to look like it did before because nobody uses the system. And it's like, why am I incapable of doing that? Or just like the laundry, kids ran out of uniforms. Like, crap, just Febreze one from before. I can't do it. And then you see all the kids with their uniforms pressed and perfect. And you're like, damn it, man, suck at being a mom and stuff like that. Or, you know, various things. I've forgotten to bring things into school or donate money for this, or forgotten to take a child to this after school, you know, all these things. And I'm like, oh, I suck. I'm so bad. I am the worst mom ever.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my
We've all
gosh.
been
How
there.
do people do it? What's wrong with me that I can't do it? You know, all these things. I get those moments. And then there's other days when I say, you know what? I only have 24 hours in a day. I need to sleep 6, 7, preferably 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I take away my actual work hours and I take away this and that, there's only this much left. And I can only handle so much in my brain. And that's it. If it doesn't get done, I apologize to the kids. I'm like, kids, I'm sorry. Mommy didn't get to it. You'll have to just adjust.
Yeah.
Next time, maybe mommy will be better. You know?
Oh, no, but even it's like it's life, isn't it? Like there's just so much being thrown at us. And I feel like the mental load, which people are using this term a lot now, it's the perfect way to describe it. It's literally, you know, like I used to wonder, you know, until I knew what that word meant or what, you know, the description behind it, I didn't know that's what I was feeling. When I got that description of what it is, I went, oh my God, no wonder I can't concentrate. No wonder I get distracted. No wonder, you know, things fall off the earth, because there's just so much going on in my head, whether you're physically doing stuff or not. This head thing doesn't ever stop. You're always thinking it stops. It's just insane. It's wearing me out just talking about it. Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know. Modern life, I guess. But anyway. So, yeah, that's good, because I like to talk about identity. So I'm glad we've talked about that. And I can definitely relate to what you're saying. I'm the sort of person that I need a lot of time on my own. Like, same thing. I love being with people. I love socializing. I love doing stuff and going places. But, damn, I need a bit of time to recompress afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing nothing. Actually, there was a post I shared on my Instagram a couple of days ago about like creative people need time to do nothing. It's literally a requirement of the creative brain.
Yeah.
So that's what I remind myself if I'm feeling like, oh, I probably should fold that washing. It's like, no, you need time to just do nothing. It's okay.
Yep. Just lay on the bed.
Yeah. That actually brings me to another topic that I really like to talk to mums about, which is this whole mum guilt thing. And I'm putting that in air quotes again. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about the mum guilt conundrum?
Conundrum, yeah. Mom guilt is real. There is no doubt. It's not just stuff that's made up. You know, it's a societal pressure to do it all and do it perfectly. And there are other moms who appear to do it all. But what we don't see is the stuff that they're struggling with on the other end, you know? So they're doing great on one side, but are they really doing great on the other? And I think it's something that I think it comes naturally as us, because once you become a mother, it's like you change, right? You become more nurturing and caring, and you worry more about your offspring, because that's, I think, Mother Nature's way. That's how we survive as a species. We need to take care of our little ones so they can grow up and continue to procreate and keep the species going. And I think that something happens inside of us. To most people, not everyone's cut out to be a mom, and that's your choice, right? But for most people, you tend to want to take care of and make everything perfect for your little people. You want to do the right thing. But what is the right thing? Because 10 different people will tell you 10 different things is the right thing. Like, you know, I think about when I was pregnant and I was researching and I was like, should I breastfeed? Should I not breastfeed? Is formula better? Is breast milk better? What happens if? What happens if? Blah, blah, blah. What's this pro? What's this con? What's this? And my head exploded. And that was even before she was born.
Yeah.
You know, and then I made my choices and I managed with difficulty to go through that with the first one, especially. I wanted to breastfeed and I had trouble with my milk because we had a bit of a fun birth. So it was all things, but I persisted and we managed. And then, you know, and then that screwed me over when she was older because I couldn't send her to nursery for a full day because she refused to take anything from milk in a bottle.
Yeah.
So even if it was my milk and I expressed it and I gave it to her in a bottle, nope. Neither of them took bottles ever. So I screwed myself over in a way. But I felt at the time that that's what I should do. But then there was people like, even my own mother, she's like, oh, just put some formula in a bottle, stick some Pavlov in it. That's what I did with you. And I'm like, you know, Mom, things have changed. You know, it's different parenting, isn't it? I prefer it this way. She's like, rod for your own back, you know, the old saying, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, even within my own family, I had, you know, my mother-in-law saying one thing, my own mom saying another, my friend saying this, you know, my sister-in-law that this. Friends, this, you know, internet saying 400,000 things. The leading expert, the nurse, the midwife, everyone said something different. And it's like, you're going to feel guilty no matter what you choose. There's no other way. Because it's set up that way, that no matter what you choose, between A to Z, one of those things is going to be wrong for someone. And you're going to feel guilty about it. And they're going to make you feel guilty about it. And for years and years, I let the guilt take over. I said, you know, I still have moments now where I'm like, oh, I'm such a terrible mom because I forgot this or forgot that. And then I'm trying to physically stop myself. You know, I'm really consciously trying to eradicate that guilt out of it because I realize that I say it out loud. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm such a bad mom. I totally forgot. I'm so sorry, kids. You know, mommy will try better next time. And then I'm like, I'm not a bad mom. Why am I feeling guilty because I had to work and I couldn't take them to this birthday party or whatever? You know, I'm not bad. I happen to have to work, which is what lots of people do, to put food on the table to allow them to go to said parties to buy gifts for these friends. So I'm trying to consciously, if I hear myself say, oh, I'm such a bad mom, I say, actually, no, I'm just a little overwhelmed, Mom. I try and rephrase it and I tell them that. I still apologize because I think it's right to, you know, recognize their feelings and that they're frustrated because they can't go to that party or whatever. But I try and say to them, you know, I'm not a bad person. And I shouldn't feel guilty about it. I feel sorry that I can't fulfill your desire today, but maybe we could do it tomorrow. But, you know, and I'm trying to consciously do that. It's like, you know, when you see yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh, the flab, you know, and it's like, no, this is my story. I had 2 kids. My belly has been stretched beyond compare, and I'm impressed it's already gone back as much as it has. You know? I should be impressed that I'm still not a watermelon, you know? It's just,
that's it, isn't it?
It's like I'm trying to consciously change and reframe myself and my words because I know that they are going to affect them. And for when they decide to be moms, if they so choose to be moms, I don't want them to have to feel the weight of it from themselves because society's already going to put so much on them. Anyway.
That's it, isn't it?
And I want them to feel safe in their own skin and in their own thoughts and being able to make their own choices and not feel bad that their choice is going to go against the grain for person X or person Y. Doesn't matter because it'll be fine for person A. You know?
Good on you. That's very inspiring.
That was very long and rambly.
That was great. Because that's the thing. If we're in tune enough to be able to catch these thoughts, whatever they may be, but particularly around guilt, I think is really important because we are literally fighting an uphill battle. Like you said, the scales are tipped against us. They're not in our favor. And anything we do is going to be judged by somebody else, whether it's in real life or on the internet, or, you know, we judge ourselves by what we see someone's doing on Instagram. If we can catch that and go, actually, hang on a minute. I'm actually a really good mum. And like you said, I'm overwhelmed at the minute, or I'm just having a bit of an off day, or whoops, never mind. Like, you know, like just giving ourselves a break, cutting ourselves some slack, and not being so hard on ourselves, I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating because you want to do it all. Maybe your brain wants to do it all, but your body can't handle it, and time constraints just can't do it. And it's also being kind to yourself and realizing that you can't juggle everything. And I think that's the first step, is to recognize that we are not machines. We are human, and we can only do so much with what we have.
That's it, isn't it? And being mindful that, you know, when we're being told these things, you know, particularly from women or whoever's from other generations, when they raised children, it was a completely different social setup. You know, there wasn't two parents usually working. It was one parent at the home all the time. And so, you know, maybe things were different and achievable on different levels. So, yeah, putting things in context, I think, can be useful, and not just taking somebody's advice and going, oh, no, I can't do that. I must be really bad. It's like, actually, the world has changed a lot since then, or whatever it might be, you know. Yeah. I don't know. You feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't you? But
it is. That's what it is. You have to do what's right for you.
Yeah, you do.
As long as you're a good person overall, it shouldn't really matter how you do it.
Yeah, as long as you and your family and your children are all happy.
Yeah.
Stuff everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of like what influences you with your photography, like you talk about you've done your own projects when you first sort of picked up the camera and you're taking pictures of nature or, you know, things in the world and things like just as from your perspective. Have you found that since you became a mum that maybe what you're looking at's different or what's influencing you is different?
Absolutely. You know, before I had kids, I would go on lots of hikes, and I was interested in taking pictures of butterflies and pretty flowers and light and landscapes and the water and whatever else happened by, or when I was traveling. Obviously, you know, there's like 4,000 pictures of the Eiffel Tower from when I went to Paris, because that's what you do. Yes. And that's what I was doing, you know, different angles, random things, experimenting, everything. But you know, I would just kind of focused on that. Like, I was thinking about taking pretty things, pretty pictures, and there wasn't really a meaning or anything deeper in the images. I just liked the photographic medium. I liked how I could express with it and play with it, but I didn't necessarily want to say anything with it.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
I did have some brief moments when I turned 30 where I was like, oh, I'm getting old. And I started to experiment with some self-portraiture a little bit, just to see how I was changing and how things were going. I was getting to that age where, you know, I had just gotten married, and I was wanting to start a family. So I wanted to start kind of documenting me and how I was going to change. And so I would say that 30 is when I started to try and say something with my photography. Whether I was good at it or not is a whole different story. But I did try and do something specific with my work. And so I started kind of experimenting on, you know, trying to do self-portraits with what I had, and all that kind of stuff. Then I had baby, number one, and baby number one became the center focus of everything. It was documenting every moment, look, it's a spit bubble, how cute. And, it's like, and then I started to follow like all these moms on Instagram doing all these cool things with their babies, and these photographers, other things, doing stuff. And also I was trying to launch the business. And so my personal photography kind of got set aside, and it was only just taking pictures of the kids as they started to grow and develop. And then at a certain point, something else clicked. And I think it's when they started to, question things again, after they were that little needy ball of stuff that just needed you 100%, when started to talk and have tiny little conversations in their own way. And they started asking me things. And I was like, that's a very good question. Children have an unfiltered view of the world, and they ask things. They don't care about manners or whatever. And, and it really started when one of my daughters, she saw I was just getting changed, and she saw my stretch marks on my belly. And she's like, Mommy, what are those? And I said, oh, they're stretch marks. And she's like, what's a stretch mark? Because as you do. And and I said, oh, it's what happens when when your belly grows, and usually when you have a baby, because your skin stretches, but it doesn't go back together again. And she's like, do you like them? And I was like, that is a very good question. Do I like them? And it got me thinking. And so I randomly took pictures of my stretch marks.
Yep.
And I started this kind of idea of taking self-portraits of me as I am now. With the saggy belly, with the, using it as like a therapy for my frustrations, because as I said, I was all mom and business, and I didn't do personal work. So this was one of my first steps, was taking self-portraits. And I started doing a series of self-portraits, which are still ongoing. And I think I'll probably end up doing them my whole life, because I will keep changing. And I love to see how they've changed and how I've changed. Even my body has changed. And sometimes you see yourself in a certain way, and then you see yourself in a picture and you're like, wow, that's nothing like I see myself. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not such a good thing. But it's made me think about, I can actually say something with what I want to do. So I started doing just thinking of something and a theme and doing personal work. And so my self-portraits has been a big ongoing one. Another one that I have been doing slowly is exploring the concept of what family is. And it's called the We Are Family Project. And basically I'm out photographing families using creative lenses, but families that aren't mom, dad, and 2.5 kids and a cat and dog. Of course, there's a family with mom and dad and 2.5 kids and a dog. And then there's a family with just one mom, or there's a family with two moms, or there's a family with no kids, just the dog, or there's a family with a child with special needs, and I'm trying to photograph as much diversity of what family is. And it reminds me of that episode of your podcast episode where you interviewed that lady that had IVF, and she decided to be a mom just on her own.
Alicia. It was Alicia.
And she talked about her IVF journey and how she was writing a book, I think, about normalizing family. And I was like, and it's like, I was like, see, that's in the lines of my project, is to normalize what family is. Family can be anything. Family can be multi-generations. I had a family where mom was living with her single daughter and her two kids, and that was the family. So I've been working on that project as well, slowly over the years. I've done a few families, and I'm recently starting a new one that I'm actually photographing my first model for today.
Right.
And I'm calling it the Kintsugi Mama project, and it has to do with stretch marks. So it came from, and it's kind of been simmering in the back there for a few years, from when my daughter asked me about the stretch marks. And then one day I told her that, you know what, I've thought about your question, and I think I like my stretch marks because they're the story of you and your sister. And my skin broke, but it healed together. And then I found out about this Japanese practice of kintsugi, which is repairing broken pottery with gold. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, they work together. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who's a face painter, and I'm like, I need gold face paint that's safe and this and that, because I've got this idea and I need to do it. And so I sat down and very trickily with a mirror painted my own stretch marks in gold face paint, and I photographed it. And I said, this is the beginning of a new project. It's not just my stretch marks, it's all of our stretch marks, whether we have 2 or 4,000. They tell our story, and they are when our body broke and it fixed itself, and it fixed itself in a beautiful way. And it's something I want to highlight. So I've called in a few moms of all shapes and sizes, and I am painting their stretch marks in gold and photographing it.
Oh, I love it.
Photographing them. And so I'm super excited about this. I had to put it off. I was supposed to do it last week, but I had a surgery and recovery took way too long. And so now I'm doing it again this week, and I'm super excited to be doing that. And I have something to say, and I think we all have something to say. And it goes into so many things. It goes into body positive and mom positive, and empowering us to appreciate what our bodies do. And society is like, we're all airbrushed and photoshopped, and no, we aren't. No.
I absolutely love that. It's actually made me a little bit emotional, to be honest, because I just think I resonate with that so deeply, that society wants us to be fixed, and to not look like we've ever gone through anything bad. We have to hold up this perfect persona or perception of ourselves. And it's like, why are we so afraid to hide these parts of us that show the amazing things we've done? You know, it's pretty bloody amazing to carry a child and to birth a child. It's just like, why do we have to hide that and be afraid of what people, I don't know. To me, it's patriarchy, but anyway, that's my take on it.
But women we have do to be to ourselves as well. As women.
We do. We play into that.
It's not just men. I mean, maybe it was just men and the patriarchy, and it's conditioned generations and generations and generations of women. But we do it to ourselves. I mean, I know lots of amazing photographers, and I'm not to, lessen their work or anything, but they do these maternity photos that are, oh my God, they're stunning. And these women have porcelain skin, smooth skin, not a blemish. I mean, it looks, they're like models, beautiful models with flowing dresses and a perfect bump. And they look amazing. And that's great, because that's what they want them to look like. These women have gone to these people because that's what they want to feel. But then when you're done and you look at yourself and you look at that picture you have on the wall, is that really you? And are you appreciating you for you? Or are you appreciating you for that glorious portrait that you've had done, which is beautiful? And I love that, we can, as photographers, do this and make someone feel how amazing they truly are if they can look past their imperfections. I think you can see that as one of the reasons behind that kind of very photoshopped kind of photography. But I prefer to say, don't need to see past it. I need to embrace it. And it's been part of my own journey. Doing this and doing these projects has been part of my own personal journey as well, to accepting my body for what it is. And understanding that it's a map of my life, and it's my story, and that of my children. It connects me to them. Those stretch marks, each one of those connects me to one of my kids. And I think that it's so important to help other people to understand that as well. So I'm really hoping that this project will take off and become something a bit more, and take, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm hoping that it will make an impact on someone somewhere.
I love it. I just think it's just so wonderful. Honestly, I wish I was closer to you, because I'd let you paint mine.
I would love to have you. If you ever come over this way and this side of the world, stop by and I will happily add you.
Yeah. No, I just love that. I just think yeah, like I said, sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional because I just think I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting tired, but you know what I mean?
I am sorry.
No, it's good. I just the more people that can do stuff like what you're doing, and also your models, to be able to put themselves out there too, that's massive. Like that takes, like you've said, through your work, it's you working through things. For someone to rock up and say, yep, no worries, here I am, put me out there, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I
mean, when I did the model call, I posted and shared it in a local breastfeeding group that I'm part of still from when I was feeding my girls. And, I had a lot of people interested in the concept, but then when I explained exactly what it was going to be, a lot of people said, I'm not ready for that yet. And that's okay.
Yeah.
They said, I might be after. And I'm like, that's okay. It doesn't matter. When you're ready, you let me know and we'll do this. And I had others say, yeah, let's do it, man. I'm totally wanting to work on my image, and I want to help myself. And they see it as part of something that they can work on together too. And that's okay too. And when you're ready, it's very hard for us to accept ourselves as we are, no matter what shape, size we are, how we see ourselves and how we want to see ourselves. It's so very different from what we really are. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but
and the way that people actually see us, I think it can be really different from how we want to be seen. So, we put these like Instagram or TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but we put these filters on to try and create this artificial way of presenting ourselves because we think people will like that more, or you know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know. It's a bit disturbing, really, when you think about it. Like you
could go down a rabbit hole with all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Talk about it for ages and debate and everything. So I just I think we'd be here all day.
I know. No, but look, what you're doing is amazing. It really is. If there is anyone that's in your neck of the woods that would like to get involved in that, is your Instagram the best place to go, or do you have?
I've created a little account for it on my Instagram. It's called Kintsugi Mama Project. I can send it to you when I send you all the links and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that would be great.
Yeah, and it's on there. Of course, I've shared it also on my personal work profile, which is Life is Wild and Free, but Instagram took it down because it promoted, something.
Oh, for God knows what. Sakes. See, that's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because that account, I think, has more followers. So someone must have reported it. It must have bothered someone to see my belly in gold.
For God's sake.
But that picture is still on the Kintsugi Mama one because it's a smaller number of followers. It probably hasn't piqued anyone's attention yet. So at the moment, it's still there. I can foresee that I will have some trouble sharing some of these pieces uncensored on Instagram. So I am going to be setting up a section on my website for it because that's mine. And I can decide what I share and what I don't. And no one can take it down. Yeah, exactly. As far as I know.
Yeah.
So I will be doing that to share a bit more of it. But as it stands at the moment, it is just on Instagram. And I have a little newsletter that I've started writing for the ones that answered the model call and stuff to keep them updated on how the project is doing. Yeah, cool. But I'll be developing that as it comes to help and also get subscribers on that list so people can follow it without having to be worrying about what Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform have as their personal opinion on a woman's body. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we could talk about it's or not, I reckon. Just really frustrates me. Anyway, I will put all the links in the show notes so people can click away and keep updated. And I think that's wonderful. And all the best with it. I really think that is amazing. It
Oh,
really,
thank
like
you
it
so
is.
much.
And I love the tone. I love how your mind went there to bring those two ideas together. I think that's brilliant.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's fun to follow the brain, isn't it? It's just like these two random things, like, oh, I can do something with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love moments like that where you get something and then you sort of go, oh, no, this is something, because you always got stuff going through your head. And then it's like you stop and go, oh, yeah. Oh, I like that one. You know what I mean?
Mhm. That's the one I'm going to cling to.
Yeah.
Because you have so many things and it's like you can't do them all.
Yeah.
You can't do them all well. But the one that really sings to you, that it all comes together and you're like, that's the one. That's the one you're doing.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm going with now.
Good on you. I love that. I actually had a moment like that. I went to Adelaide, which is like the capital city of my state, over the weekend by myself, totally by myself, no children, no husband. It was just amazing because I had a singing gig on in the city. And driving home, I had one of those moments where I just was listening to a song. So I'm a massive Beatles fan. So I was listening to the Beatles and all of a sudden I had this idea. And by the time I'd gotten home, I've planned this whole idea for my album I'm going to do and all these songs I'm going to do. And it's like, just things just, once they start, they just go and go and go. And now I've got to try and find time to do it. That's the next, the next thing.
Yeah, I find that if I write it down, I'm able to get it out of my head and then I can actually still remember the stuff.
Yep.
So I have a notebook because mine come right before I'm about to fall asleep.
Yes. Yep.
Or when I'm driving. That's another one. Yep. So I always have a little notebook and a pen near my bed. And when I wake up with this great idea and I'm like, gotta write it down before I forget it. And then I'm like, I can sleep now.
Yes.
And then the next day I can sit down and focus on it and just do what I gotta do to make it happen.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing like what you've got coming up to, the things you're working on, because that's something I think's, I like to know what people are up to, and then people can, if they're, piqued their interest, they can follow along and see what's going on. And
absolutely.
I'll definitely be following along on that project. That's just
that's great.
Spectacular.
I hope that it will speak to you and others as well. And I hope that it will develop and grow into something a bit more than just an Instagram account. Assuming I can keep the account and don't get banned off of it.
Oh dear. Nah, good on you. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I've just had
thank you so much for having me. It's been an amazing
pleasure.
chat.
It has. It's been lovely, and I feel like now I'm starting to get like sore cheeks from laughing. You smile so much, you're like, which is a sign of a great chat. Thank you, and all the best. I'm really inspired by what you're doing. Good for you. Really awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy. Because knowing that you can make just a difference for one person or to help one person is huge. And sometimes we forget about it because we're all like, I need to become like an established authority in my field, and in order to be successcul, right? I need to have like millions of followers and have that little blue tick on my account. And you know what? It's all BS.
It is, isn't it? It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can make a difference in you're already making a difference to someone in your family, aren't you? I mean,
yeah, that's so true. I think we overlook that a lot, don't we?
We forget how powerful and how impactful we can be on that small circle of people that live with us. We don't need to be huge in the world. I mean, it would be great to be able to make a huge difference, wouldn't it? But even making it to like, who would have thought my chat with you would have helped inspire you all the way in Australia, to maybe take that step and look at yourself in a different way. I mean, who would have thought? And yet there we go.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
That makes me feel like I've accomplished today.
Yeah. I love that. It's another lesson on sort of adjusting our lens, I guess, of what our expectations might be, or what we want to achieve out of something. Why are we doing what we're doing? And I love that.
That's a whole other story, isn't it? Just go and go and go.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks for your company today. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to consider leaving us a review, following or subscribing to the podcast, or even sharing it with a friend you think might be interested. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch with us via the link in the show notes. The music you heard featured on today's episode was from Alemjo, which is my new age ambient music trio comprised of myself, my sister Emma Anderson and her husband John. If you'd like to hear more, you can find a link to us in the show notes. I'll catch you again next week for another chat with an artistic mum.